one of the challenges of team development, successful team development initiatives, is that your coworkers are not your friends. Plainly put, your coworkers are not your friends. Yes, I've had coworkers that I have developed friendship-like relationships with, but there were certain conditions that had to be met in order for them to actually be considered a friend. And the lion's share of people that we meet in organizations are not our friends. Now, there's a certain level of authenticity and vulnerability and safety that comes along with friendship that is challenging to get in a coworker because of a number of reasons, especially in those environments where laws, rules, regulations, and policies are very strict. And so the coworker relationship is complicated to navigate when you're doing team development because people automatically, in their subconscious, have the antennas up to assess the risk of developing a relationship with their coworker. Now, I actually learned that your coworker is not your friend in a very, very interesting way. And I learned it the hard way when I started in IT consulting. I was working at one of the largest consulting firms in the world, and I had met a young lady who was also working at a rival company, which was also one of the largest consulting companies in the world. But we hit it off. My team was implementing a system, and her organization, the organization that she was working for, was one of the customers that we worked with. She and I developed a great relationship. We would go out to lunch, laugh and joke, talk about our personal lives. She would often call me with issues. She would send me things that had all of these errors in them, and I had to either configure them or address the issues so that we could ensure that she had what she needed to in order to do her job. Again, I would, she'd send me emails. I would, she then follow up with a call. I'd fix it immediately and, file it away, and we keep moving. Well, in this one particular instance, or this one particular week, there were a number of requests that she had, and we had come up with a strategy between she and I for how those requests would be addressed. Now, this was all done via phone. We just had conversations. She and I had a great rapport with one another, so I thought nothing of it until I received a call from the senior manager on my team. And he asked me, what's going on with this particular client or this particular customer organization, because they're saying that you didn't follow through on this set of requests. Now, it's the same set of requests that I had spoken to the young lady about. We came up with a strategy on how we were going to address it. However, she was in trouble. I didn't know this, but she was in trouble, and her leadership needed answers. So the senior manager said to me, well, we got to go meet with this customer organization because we got to fix this. And so I'm going into this situation thinking that, oh, this will be fine because I know we had a conversation. She's going to, we're going to talk it out, and she's going to, explain to her client that, we had an agreement and everything will be fine. I get to the meeting, I'm sitting in there, and the senior manager and I, we're sitting in there, and they walk in, and she comes in with a very different demeanor than she usually has with me. And so I'm like, hey, how's it going? And it was a very straightforward demeanor, very much more reserved, much more professional than we're used to being with one another. And so I said to the client, I said, oh, well, I heard that there was this issue. She and I had an agreement. I explained the whole situation. I thought everything would be fine. And I'd say, isn't that accurate? And so she has, again, this stack of papers. Well, I sent this over to him, and I sent this over to him, and it was supposed to be done on this time, and it wasn't done on this time. And my mind is blown. I'm feeling betrayed. I'm feeling as if everything that we had developed in terms of our personal relationship or our working relationship was false, because she did not fess up when she had an opportunity to just explain the situation. I walked away from that conversation defeated, but I really appreciate that senior manager because he understood. But he also told me to document, 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 document. And it was that situation that carried me through the rest of my career, even into management, senior management. I document, document, document. Because when you're working in certain environments, that is critical. It's critical for you to have your receipts. However, what that does, in some instances, if you don't have a clear handle on how to document, it can really strain your relationships because there's always an assessment of risk, risk, risk. Well, let me make sure that I document this and put this away and tuck that away just in the event. That strains relationships. Imagine if you were trying to, or you had a friend where every time they said something, regardless of what it was, if it seemed questionable or whatever the situation was, you had to keep a folder of all of the things that they said so that in the event that they said something wrong or you guys got into a disagreement, you pulled out this stack of information to say, on this date you said this, on that date you did this. That's not a free and flowing friendship. And so I learned that your coworkers are not your friends from that situation. And after that, it was very interesting because she would send me requests and they would still be filled with the same errors that they used to be filled with when she would send them to me before, but I had to be very different in how I engaged with her. And so I would send them back and I would request that she correct those errors so that we can make sure that there was an audit trail. And after weeks and weeks of her sending me false information, she honestly broke down and she called me and she said, Donnie, I'm sorry. I know I should not have done that. I know that was wrong, and I really apologize. I was really dealing with a lot of stress, but I really need your help on this because she was under the gun. And I could have chose to help her in that instance or to continue to just, nope, you have to follow the rules. We have to follow the rules. We have to follow the rules. However, after that, our relationship, there was still a bit of a barrier there because she had broken my trust. And so I continued to document in a manner that would still cover my office and my organization, but I learned that she was not my friend. And that's what a lot of people, especially people who are new to teams and new to organizations in general, they make the mistake of thinking that people and their coworkers are their friends. And so they divulge personal information and they overshare and we overtrust. And we forget that the conditions of the environment that we are working in and that many of us work in are not designed for friendship. At the organization that I was working at the time, I had some really, really good relationships that I developed from working at that organization. However, there was still an entrepreneurial spirit that was injected in that organization because even for you to get on a project, you had to go and sell yourself to the senior manager or the manager or the partner that oversaw that portfolio. You were selling yourself while your peers were also selling themselves. And so there was that one key thing of competition that created an environment where people didn't really feel safe to be their vulnerable self, because if you were too vulnerable, the same people that you were competing for work with could use your information against you. And so when you have environments with high competition, it makes it challenging for you to develop genuine friendships. Now, I'm not saying that some friendships aren't built around competition, because there are some friends who compete, but there's a certain level of healthy competition that needs to be present in order for people to thrive together. And that's one of the challenges of team development. How do I create healthy competition? And the other thing is, how do I create a sense of safety in my environment so that everybody in the environment feels safe enough to be authentically them? At the same company, again, I was just a very open person, just, bubbly. I was, friends with everybody. And so I was talking to the manager on one of the projects, and he said to me, he said, "You are, you're amazing. You're at the top rate. You've been at the top rate every year." But I'd been a little bit too forthcoming one day when I had to take off, and I was telling him how I was sick, and I was telling him a whole bunch of details. And it literally in my review, he was saying you need to just manage your sharing. You sort of overshared in that moment, and you don't want to overshare. And I really appreciate him for that, because oversharing was another thing that I would do that really made me vulnerable in an environment, again, where competition was, so it wasn't high, but it was sort of medium. And so when you're in these environments where you're thinking people are your friends, you have to be cognizant of, number one, you're still in a competitive environment. Even when you think that, oh, we're the same level, they don't have any ambitions of going up. We've talked about it. I don't have any ambitions, but people change. Because when opportunities open up, sometimes people don't feel like they have the ability to ascend to different levels within the organization. And you never know, that same person could be your boss. So how do you create an environment where, one, again, there is safety. You're safe to be authentic. You're safe to be yourself, but you don't overshare. And two, you don't feel like, if I share this information, this person is going to use it to compete against me. So competition and oversharing are killers of team development. And that's one of the things that I help people to overcome. That's one, and it's not an overnight thing. And it's a very delicate balance, because you have to look at the laws, rules, regulations, and the policies within your organization to figure out how we create, and you simplify it though, because those aren't the only two things, but you simplify it in a way that people feel safe. And safety really is the core of what we're trying to get at here when we're talking about team development. Safe environments where people can be authentically them, where there's healthy competition, and people are free to share themselves with their coworkers in a way that is liberating and strengthening for them. So I hope this was helpful. I hope the story was interesting for you, and talk to you next time.